Sevhead Creative at sevhead.com presents the audio web series Epyphany, Born from the Sea, written and produced by Don Sev Severance and narrated by Professor Proteus. Episode 13. Chapter 33. Rendezvous. After the stress of the last few weeks, the idea of escaping from Pisces was incredibly appealing to Sajah. She wasn't sure if this was another opportunity to make things right with Thoreau, or if she was simply fooling herself. At the very least, her curiosity about the vision and the sighting would likely be satisfied. Sajah had disappeared before. She knew how to vanish without a trace. At Pisces, there was no one she had to report to directly. Her faithful assistant could clear her calendar and cover her tracks. There was only one other person she trusted as much as Thoreau. It had been some time since she last heard from her father, though she hadn't seen pictures of the infamous Wild Bill in the tabloids lately. She wondered what mischief he might have been up to. She smiled, remembering how she used to call him Mr. Bill as a child. Despite their differing business philosophies and separate social circles, she loved her father and wanted him to know she was safe. Knowing he would honor her privacy, she sent a brief text. "I'll be unavailable for a short time." Resisting her natural instinct to overpack, Sajah took one last look around her penthouse, smiling at the thought of leaving it all behind for a while. She tried to clear her mind of expectations, but the anticipation of Thoreau's touch was impossible to suppress. A couple of days and several private jet transfers later, Sajah had successfully hopscotched her way across the globe. She booked alternate routes, cancelled flights, and improvised her schedule on the fly. Using false passports and clever disguises, she navigated her way to the Maldives, exhilarated by the charade. On the final leg of her journey, she notified Thoreau. He instructed her to await further orders and be ready to leave at a moment's notice. It was dusk when she landed, and during the short taxi ride to her hotel, a new message arrived. Another taxi would be waiting in the parking lot. She was to wait for the first taxi to leave, then take the second one to a small private marina where a seaplane would be waiting. The pilot would give her further instructions upon landing. Though Sajah respected Thoreau's cautious nature, the secret agent aspect of the journey was beginning to wear thin. She started to question her hasty decision and Thoreau's intentions. After a brief flight, the small plane landed in a secluded bay. In the faint silver light of the waning crescent moon and distant stars, Sajah could just make out the silhouette of a deserted shoreline. The plane taxied to a long, narrow dock, and Sajah apprehensively stepped onto the pontoon and climbed the ramp. The pilot's only instruction was, "Wait here." Standing alone in the hazy moonlight at the end of the rickety pier, she watched the plane disappear into the night. With each passing moment, Sajah choked down her fear. She couldn't remember a time when she had felt so vulnerable and alone. The sound of waves sloshing and water bubbling beneath the dock broke the silence. Suddenly, she was trapped in an intense beam of white light. Disoriented, Sajah gasped and nearly stumbled off the dock. The blinding glare appeared to be suspended from a pole rising out of the water. As the light rose higher, she saw that it was attached to a small yellow submarine, which popped out of the water and came to a gurgling stop at the end of the pier. "Been waiting long?" Thoreau's voice broke the tension. Sajah struggled to find her voice. No, not long. I apologize for all the cloak and dagger stuff, but I know you've been hiring some pretty sketchy characters lately." Sajah finally caught her breath. "You're right. My methods have been questionable, but I'm here now. I did my best to shake any possible tales. Did you tell anyone where you were going? I just told my dad that I'd be gone for a short time and not to worry. Thoreau frowned but said nothing. He had never been on good terms with Wild Bill and didn't trust him. Convincing Sajah that her father wasn't the misunderstood saint she believed him to be was a conversation for another day. Well, climb aboard. It's small, but it's comfy. One more short ride, and you can get some rest. We can talk tomorrow. Sajah expected to feel claustrophobic underwater in such a tiny space, but as she settled into the passenger seat, it seemed as though it had been custom designed for her. She instantly relaxed, letting out an audible sigh. Comfortable? Is it my imagination? Or is this seat giving me a massage? Sort of. These are prototypes of my new mood sensor chair for long-distance travel. I call it the envelope. With a quiet hum, the tiny sub slid beneath the waves. Sajah closed her eyes, and within minutes she was dozing off, her first peaceful sleep in months. But the tranquility didn't last long. Thoreau's gentle voice woke her. We're here. He guided the sub into its cradle, and they rose smoothly into the belly of Samu. Helping Sajah out, Thoreau led her to the kitchen. They ate a light snack in silence, and then he showed her to her room. Another reunion. After 12 hours of deep, dreamless sleep, Sajah awoke briefly, smiled, and then drifted in and out of consciousness for another hour, lulled by the gentle rocking of the ship. Eventually, hunger coaxed her out of bed. The scent of something divine had found its way to her cabin. Sajah rose slowly, did a short regimen of stretches, and then, breathing deeply, filled her lungs with the clean ocean air before meandering up the stairs to the main deck. Leaning against the smooth teak railing, the warm breeze tickling her neck, she smiled at the vast ocean vista. A perfect blend of deep blue skies, puffy white clouds, and sparkling emerald sea. Sajah hadn't felt this rested or peaceful in months. This is Thoreau's life, she thought. I want to be part of this. Why do I keep pushing this incredible man away? Lost at sea? Sajah jumped. Consumed by her thoughts, she hadn't heard or seen Thoreau setting the breakfast table. Didn't mean to startle you. Hungry? She turned and saw Thoreau smiling as he poured a couple of mimosas. She felt like she was truly seeing him for the first time. He was so intensely himself on his ship, composed and confident, washed in an aura of calm and purpose. In this moment, she would gladly cash out, throw away her titles and power, and just sail the world with him. Hey, are you okay? What? Yes, I'm fine. All this pure oxygen must have gone to my brain, and I'm weak with hunger. Wow, what a spread. The table was a masterpiece of colour and tantalizing aromas. In the centre was an elegant fruit bowl made of blown glass, so pure and clear that the assortment of exotic papayas and mangoes seemed to be floating in mid-air. On either side of the bowl were steaming silver platters, piled high with hot banana pancakes, apple and cheese stratas, Canadian bacon, and scrambled eggs. A tiny vase of delicate flowers was set off to the side, near a unique handmade ceramic plate flanked by intricately etched silver cutlery. Sajah sat down, feeling like she was still dreaming. As she sipped her mimosa, she could smell the intoxicating flowers and the fresh Kona coffee brewing. You certainly know how to treat a girl. Just wanted to show my appreciation for your efforts to join me. I didn't realize how much I needed this. I hope we can avoid any serious conversation for a little while. I'd like to get to know Captain Thoreau. Okay, let's try a couple of freestyle days. No schedules, no agenda, no pressure. I've got several projects I'm working on, so you can relax and do as you please. My door will be open. When you want some company or conversation, let me know. All I ask is for the truth. Deal? Deal. Sajah drifted through her first day back on the Samudra Hantu with a pleasant sense of timelessness. She ate when she was hungry, slept when she was tired, read, swam in the pool, and exercised in Samu's amazing high-tech gym. At one point, she dropped into Thoreau's studio briefly, and they made plans for a sunset dinner. Sajah informed Thoreau that she would help Samu prepare the menu and meal. As the sun started sinking toward the horizon, the sky filled with gold and green rays of light. The air was still, save for a tiny vibration, a low-voltage current connecting everything to everything. The vast sky, the restful sea, and the endless horizon were all sewn together by this invisible thread, this electric spirit. Sajah had never seen or felt anything like it. She found herself thinking back to past dinner dates on board. She couldn't remember the last time she had experienced such a perfectly balanced day. No drama, no recriminations, no phones, no news. Just being present in each fragment of the day. It was so refreshing, and now she was starting to tingle. Sajah loved that feeling. The first tiny ripple of anticipation. It had been 24 hours since Sajah arrived, and Thoreau felt that things had gone quite well so far. He knew there were some tough decisions ahead, and he suspected that the dinner date would be the beginning of the big questions, hers and his. His first hurdle was coming to terms with the undeniable and equally strong attraction to both Sajah and Epyphany. When he saw Sajah standing alone on that desolate pier, obviously frightened and powerless, he felt he was seeing the real Sajah for the first time. He saw the young girl trying to prove herself to a powerful, distant father, and the successful woman who would never show her softness. In that moment, he understood she was just another lonely creature trying to survive in a complicated world. It would be difficult for Thoreau to reconcile the differences between Epyphany and Sajah. He had no doubts concerning his love for Epyphany, but he had thus far avoided thinking about how they would manage a future together. Right now, Sajah was on his ship, and even knowing the lengths she had gone to track him, his desire for her had never waned. Thoreau still hoped there was some way to bridge the gap between the natural spiritual worlds of Ujjayi and Bali, and his and Sajah's world of technology and commerce. It would take a serious leap of faith, but he needed to share his secrets with another human being. If his plan worked, he and the inhabitants of Ujjayi could have a powerful and effective ally in Sajah. Once the menu was decided, Sajah left most of the preparation to Samu. She had a few hours left before sunset, so she poured herself a glass of wine and climbed the stairs to the observation deck. Seeing Thoreau in his natural element and enjoying this short respite from the rat race that was her life had provided Sajah with some unexpected insight. Though her desire for Thoreau was still strong, she had lost all interest in manipulating him or using him for her own personal gain. Thoreau had asked for the truth, so she assumed he was ready to answer all her questions in like fashion. The silver fin incident and the question of a real mermaid would certainly make for some very interesting dinner conversation. The concept of a new species was mind-blowing, but she found Thoreau's personal involvement even more important to her. Sajah forced herself to abandon conjecture and went back to the simple problem of what to wear. She would not dress to seduce him. In fact, she decided to keep it completely casual, a light summer dress and sandals, minimal makeup, and no jewelry. As Thoreau climbed the stairs leading to the upper deck, he heard the sound of steel drums drifting in the warm evening breeze. He smiled and thought, I do enjoy Sajah's taste in music. He hesitated briefly at the top of the stairs, enchanted by the scene in front of him. Sajah stood at the rail once again, staring up at the sky with both hands on the rail. Backlit by the setting sun, Sajah's body was a slender, sensuous silhouette framed in fiery gold. Her thin summer dress glowed as it fluttered gently in the breeze, slowly wrapping itself around her long, firm legs and clinging to her narrow waist. Thoreau had hoped that his growing love for Epyphany would provide him a certain immunity to Sajah's irresistible sensuality. Without turning, Sajah spoke. "It's so incredibly beautiful out here. I can see why you get so restless in the city," she sighed. "You may have to force me to leave." As she turned to face him, Thoreau asked, "How long have you known I was standing here?" Thoreau joined her as she walked over to the food transporter. "I felt your presence as you climbed the stairs." They carried the food to the table in silence. Thoreau pulled the bottle of champagne from the ice bucket while Sajah removed the dishes from the warmers. Before they sat down, he filled the glasses and proposed a toast. Looking straight into her eyes, Thoreau said, "Truth and beauty." Sajah responded, "The beautiful truth." Their fingers touched briefly as they tapped glasses. The crystal flutes made a single pure note that hung in the air around them, then slowly faded into the sound of the sea. In the short silence that followed the toast, Thoreau sensed an uncharacteristic gentleness in Sajah's bearing. She seemed at peace. He noted her lack of accessories and makeup, a style that served to accentuate Sajah's natural beauty. As they took their seats, Thoreau commented, "You seem changed, radiant." "I take it things have been going well." "Quite the contrary. My life has basically been hell since you left." Thoreau leaned back, surprised at the blunt honesty of her response. Sajah continued, "I am changed. You may not believe this, but the change you see, and the change that I feel, only began the day I got your message. The farther I have traveled from Pisces, the better I have felt. It's as though with each mile traveled I shed a pound from the tons of baggage I've been carrying since I started working there. Then, the moment I settled into your comfy little yellow sub, a small seed of contentment started to grow inside of me. I see change in you as well, and I feel you are part of something that I need. At first, I thought it was just the undeniable physical attraction we share. But it is more than that. By now, I'm sure you're aware of the lengths to which I've gone just to keep my eye on you. I'm not proud of it, but I guess in some strange way it succeeded in bringing us here, to this moment. Our dinner is getting cold. Should I continue?" Thoreau leaned closer as she spoke. "We can eat and talk. Go on." "There are so many questions I need to ask, but this past day on your ship observing you, your quiet strength and boundless energy, has answered the most important one for me. I ask you now to confirm what I feel must be true. Are you in love with that mysterious and miraculous creature?" Thoreau sat up straight, took a drink of water, set the glass down slowly, then looking directly at Sajah, he began his story. The hours passed as Thoreau related his complex tale. They nibbled at their meal. Sajah asked the occasional question, but mostly Thoreau spoke, and Sajah listened. They got up and walked around the ship, while Thoreau did his best to convey not only the facts, but also the spirit of his connection to bliss, Ujjayi, the tribe, and most importantly, Epyphany. Attempting to convey his excitement and uncertainty about his future with Epyphany, he tried to be as honest as possible while remaining mindful of Sajah's feelings toward him. He had experienced these events in fragments with time to process, and still there were moments when he couldn't believe it. His respect for Sajah grew as she remained calm and curious, accepting his strange story as the truth. The sun had long set, and the moon was high. They stood on the bow, shoulder to shoulder, watching the whitecaps sparkle in the moonlight. Thoreau had finally run out of words, and Sajah had run out of questions. Sajah had never felt closer to anyone than she did at that moment. If she had doubts about her love for Thoreau before, they were gone now. The feeling was unlike any other she had ever experienced. It was a pure, unselfish love that required nothing in return. They walked in silence, heading below deck where they decided to have a nightcap and listen to some quiet music. Sajah settled on the couch while Thoreau retrieved 2 glasses and what had become a mutual favorite, aged rum. Sajah took a sip and tilted her glass toward Thoreau. "So much has happened since I trapped you with this drink at the fundraiser." Sajah put her drink down, arose, took a sip from Thoreau's drink, set that down, then took his hand in hers, and said, "Wanna dance?" When Sajah opened her eyes, it took her a few seconds to remember where she was and how she got there. Even then, she thought she might still be dreaming. The moonlight was streaming through the porthole, filling the room with a silver haze. She heard the waves slapping against the hull and felt a slight vibration. Samu was cruising swiftly through the night fog. Sajah wondered where they were heading. She turned her head slowly, scanning the room, until her eyes rested on Thoreau. He was sitting naked at a small desk not far from the foot of the bed, his face washed in the blue light of his laptop. Their eyes met. He smiled and said, "Would you like to meet Epyphany?" Sajah sat up, looking like a ghostly angel, her smooth white skin shimmering in the moonlight. She paused, slid back beneath the sheet, closed her eyes for a moment, then turned slowly back toward Thoreau and smiled. "Yes." We thank you for listening to another installment of this series. There are many more chapters to come, so we hope you subscribe and hit the bell so you can continue to join Epyphany and her tribe as they navigate the stormy seas into the transition.